We're just outside of Music City for the Ally 400 NASCAR going to Tennessee. We'll break it all down for you right here on the Backroad. Stay tuned.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Stay from the
Good evening, everyone. Welcome into the Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR and NASCAR betting show. We got the trio that you've come to know and love over the years with us this week: Elliot Hicks, Seth Woolcock, and Rod Villagomez. And we're back live with you this Thursday night. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed our pre-recorded episode last Thursday night where we went over Sonoma and talked about some championship bets. And Rod, we haven't been able to talk to you since you went to Sonoma. How was the experience?
My goodness. I got to tell you, the whole thing from start to finish, like, when you get there, it's beautiful already. And I didn't even realize the first time I'd gone there, I'd never paid attention as I was driving because I was just nervous. This time I was taking it all in. Like, you can't tell that the track is set up in a hill. You would never know that there's a NASCAR track there, but as you get closer, you start to see it. As far as being at the garage area, I mean, you're walking around and rubbing elbows with Kyle Larson and like all these people. And it's just, I don't know. It's an amazing experience. And just the race itself was good. I took the time to walk around this time and actually see the track. Again, last time I was just like, oh my God, I got to pay attention to the race. I got to see what's going on. This time I was like, no, man, I'm going to walk this whole thing. So I walked around to the carousel area. I walked back behind where all the campers were. Like, that's a gorgeous track, and you can see all kinds of great stuff from any vantage point on that track. So, yeah, it was fantastic being there. You know, as Martin Truex Jr. was burning out, like, dude, watching a 35-1 cash for the show, and you guys being on it too, it was fantastic.
Absolutely. And man, the good times just, I felt like they kept getting better. We hit that long 28-1 ticket on Martin Truex's when we got down on that. And then last week, the 19th hole boys come through for us. Wyndham Clark 70-1. Boys, the sports books accounts are looking good as we head to Tennessee. Elliot, I'm getting jazzed up for a little country music scene down there.
No doubt about it. No, in the rear view this week, we already looked back on Sonoma. We had the off week, but we are now full speed ahead for the second half of the season. So let's take a look at the horizon forecast heading into Nashville.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
So the track, not quite in downtown Nashville, obviously, about 30 miles outside in Lebanon, Tennessee. Completed in 2001, it's the longest concrete track on the NASCAR schedule. And believe it or not, this is already our third season back to Nashville. Time really has flown, and we can really start to chart numbers from past Nashville races where with some of these other newer tracks, we can't quite do that yet.
Yeah, and this one's interesting too, because as we come back here, we know this is the longest concrete surface track left on the NASCAR circuit. That's very interesting. And it's really one of those unique track, boys. Like, that's one of the things we have to keep in mind. It's not a pure mile and a half. It's a 1.33 mile track. And iFantasy Race, they described it as almost a mix between Dover and a high-speed mile and a half track, ... It's really neither, though, more of a hybrid. So a lot of fun trying to dissect this, trying to handicap it. But I do feel like there are some things we can look back at here, Rod. Dover, a little bit. Kansas, Las Vegas, Charlotte. I think we can factor those tracks in slightly. But we do have 2 years of data ran here, one being in the Gen X car as well.
Yeah, and so I also kind of threw in a little Darlington and a little Worldwide Technologies, both of those around the 1.33 mile range. So I took a look at them, the in-between intermediates and this. Yeah, and this is labeled the Nashville Super Speedway. However, it is not a super speedway by any rights or account. It's not even like the Atlanta version of a super speedway. It's just that was the name that they put it on there. So I think a lot of people that may be novice to the sport look at it and go, oh, Nashville Super Speedway. It might be Talladega or Daytona. Yeah. No, not even close.
Yeah. And Elliot, how do you think being under the lights affects this as well? Because this was one, when you look at the schedule, you say 6 p.m. in Nashville. What's going on there? Well, hey, they're bringing the Music City vibes to NASCAR, the downtown scene here. Qualifying Saturday afternoon, practice Friday night. So very spread out, kind of different schedule than we're used to. Does that affect the race on Sunday?
I think it will a little bit. And one of the positive effects that it'll have is some of these drivers won't be baking in the cars like they had been. I just looked at some clips from the Xfinity race last season where they raced in the middle of the day on a really hot Saturday, and some of those guys were just absolutely gassed after the race. So obviously it'll affect some things with the cars and the setups. They'll know going in it'll be a night race, so they may have some different setups that they would on, say, a 1.5 mile night race. I love the fact we're night racing too. I feel like we really don't get enough of that. We already had one robbed with the Coke 600, so this is definitely nice. But that's the biggest thing overall. They want to help both fan experience and driver experience to try and not have it ridiculously hot in these cars if they can avoid it. So props to NASCAR for that.
I will say, as somebody who was in Tennessee around this time frame, yes, the days are definitely warm, and I can only imagine what it's like in that fire suit, in that car for 3.5 hours cooking. Yeah, I think they're happy that they're moving this tonight.
Oh, yeah. Brian Vargas compared it to being in a sauna with a Snuggie on. So that certainly doesn't sound very fun.
No.
All right, man. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything in the breakdown that you need to know. Stages, we're going 90, 95, 115. So this is one that I think I'm going to be staying away from. Stage 2, winner wins race. I think it's just too much time in between those intervals to really cash in on that. So something to keep in mind. We saw it last season with MTJ as well. Came out, he ran stage 1, won stage 2 as well. And then where was he at the end? Nowhere close to winning this thing. So it could be wild. We've seen a couple wild finishes here, so it's something to keep in mind, but not a ton of trends to go off of other than that, Elliot.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we've looked ahead to the race. Let's get a little more specific with our tire tiers. All right, pretty traditional here. Your normal 36 cars, couple of driver changes at the bottom of the field. We'll get to those when we get to them because I know there are going to be some favorites we want to talk about a little earlier. Kyle Larson is your top DK salary at $11,600. You got Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and William Byron all above that $10,000 mark as the top 6 drivers in salary. All righty, Rod, where should we get started?
I mean, you gotta have to start at the top, don't you? It's got to be Kyle Larson at this point. He is only one of 2 drivers to have actually won this race, finished in the top 10 in both of them. Led 264 laps on this, and we're talking about, I know that most of them came obviously in one race, but when we're talking about points and dominator points, if that 5 car is going to be in the front, then you pretty much have to put him up there. He's been on sort of a tear, I guess. I don't know. It's not the Kyle Larson that we were used to seeing, but I mean, all this guy has to do is get hot, and you're going to want him on your roster, and that's it. I mean, again, you don't want to miss out, especially with Hendrick being as good as they are on this track.
Yeah, I got to stick with you there with the Hendrick theme. I'm going to go with William Byron in the 24. This just kind of feels like a William Byron race, you know. Top in speed ranking at Vegas, 3rd overall at the Dover and the high-speed 1.5 miles because Nashville is kind of that weird hybrid like we were saying. Even at $10,100, that's not a bad salary, and you want to go with the gut feeling trend sort of thing. 2021, it was Larson that won here. 2022, Chase Elliott. 2023, why not keep the Hendrick trend and William Byron going to victory lane this weekend?
Well, and this is one of those races. We haven't seen William Byron down at 10-1 in a long time, I feel like. So you are getting a little bit of a value on that 24 car. I'll probably throw him in some lineups as well, even though I'm not as high, I don't think, as you, Elliot, on him specifically here. What about MTJ, though? Throw him up there, Elliot. We've talked about him in written form, in audio form, in video form, every form we can over the last 6 weeks. And it's been for good reason. The guy's been on an absolute tear. And going back to Nashville, we previewed it last weekend. He was number 1 in total speed rankings, fastest late in a run, and green flag speed. He was running 4th with 10 to go. We thought he had a shot at it. Ended up pitting. Kind of got off strategy a little bit compared to everyone else. Won stage 1, won stage 2, led 82 laps, and it came up short. I don't think they make the same mistake this week. Give me some MTJ here at a still a quality price, 10-7. I think that's a value for the guy leading the league in DK points per contest.
I like it. Yeah. I mean, again, the only thing that kind of, I don't know, it just, when you look at him in the last couple of seasons with this, yeah, that was true that he did have that problem, but still no top 10s for him.
Yeah, the finishes.
That's the only
Yep.
thing the finishes kind of make me a little nervous. But all right, throw up that 8 car. Can't really have this without talking about Kyle Busch. He has a top 5 in this. He has a top 10, 2 top 10s on this track, and he's the hottest driver on the planet right now. Literally, 3 wins on the year, and has been absolutely money when it comes to DK points. 38.1 he's averaging so far this season. I mean, you kind of want to see a lower price tag than 11.2, but I think there's good reason for that, obviously, because he has been giving you solid fantasy performances for a better part of the last, I don't know, you go back about 5-6 races, and he's been giving you what you want out of him at his price range. So Kyle Busch in that 8 car, until further notice, is going to be a tier A driver in DFS.
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't agree more with that. This seems like one of those shows that Kyle Busch is going to be the lone guy who's not Hendrick or Gibbs that's really breaking it up. So I got the Hendrick car up there first. Now I'll go Gibbs car with Denny Hamlin. Pretty quick at these kind of tracks. Number 2 in speed ranking overall in these sort of similar deals with the top speed ranking at Kansas. Denny Hamlin, it almost feels like he's kind of due. So I got a good feeling with that 11 to be right up there with his teammate, the 19, battling for a good finish this weekend.
Hey, I'm about it. No problem there. That's where I wanted to go with this next one. However, I'm going to dip down a little bit now, guys. I'm going to go to someone I don't think DraftKings is respecting enough, and it's Joey Logano. 8,600 for him. He's coming in at a value. He's one of the few drivers who is a top 10 both seasons on this track. So I'm going to go ahead with Logano. I think he's going to be sneaky here. And guys, the Fords come out at night. So let's giddy up here with Joey Logano and the number 22 car.
Yeah, I mean, the Fords come out at night, but just the Fords have been at somewhat of a disadvantage on these kind of tracks. So, I mean, that price is disrespectful for Logano, but I definitely would be wary of the Fords this week. What do you think about that, Rob? And who are you going with your next pick?
The Fords always just make me so scared anyways. Like you can say, yay, it's a Ford week, and then they're not anywhere near the front. And then you can say, well, Fords are going to struggle here. And then all of a sudden Keselowski and Busch are like right up there in the front, and Joey Logano's fighting for the lead. Like, I kind of don't even want to pick Fords at this point. And then I say this to put up the number 4 car. Put him in tier B, though, because I don't think he's going to win on this one. I know he's going to get a solid finish on this track because he always does. Kevin Harvick, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s in total on this track. But you look at, like I said, Darlington earlier, that's it. Darlington for me, the 1.33 worldwide technologies. Like, the dude's top 10 everywhere he goes. And that's kind of what you can expect out of Kevin Harvick as a top 10 finish. And for Kevin Harvick, I mean, he's at 8,800. So if you get in the top 10, that's going to pay off for you and then some. So I like the 4 car and driver in tier B.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys, 2 top 10s at this track, man. So I think Kevin Harvick a little bit undervalued this week. I'm glad you got to it, Rod, because I was going to if you didn't. But yeah, I do like the number 4 here this week as we head closer to the summer.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. All 3 of us then were thinking the 4 car for the next pick. No surprise, it was Rod that got it, though. And this car going to look great again. They're running the Busch Light Peach scheme.
Let's go. Let's go.
Last year they ran the Gravedigger car here, I think. So if nothing else, we know that 4 car is going to look really good on that track. This here, I'll go Ross Chastain here, and I'll put him in tier B.
Yep.
Numbers show he's tier A here. He finished second with a Ganassi car. He ran up the front a lot in the 42 car in 2021. I believe he finished second.
Yes, you're right. You are correct.
Okay. Great. I thought I could trust my instinct on that one. I mean, Larson was dominant that day, but that was one of Ross's first really good runs where he showed, hey, maybe this guy can be a force in Cup. He's done that to an extent. Of course, tier B is fine with me for him. He's at a price of 9,600. I don't love that. The car will run well. It's just a matter of Ross Chastain beating Ross Chastain at this point. So we'll see what happens, but I'm comfortable with him as a tier B.
Hey, I don't mind that one bit here. It looks like I'm going to be the Ford spokesman, though, of the show, guys, because I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. Throw him up there, man. Finished 3rd here, top 8 speed. Guy has been really solid as of late, man. He's not, he got the win, got it off the monkey off his back. And I think Ryan Blaney, at a price tag, he's coming in at 9,900. I'm all right to pay that. I'm loading up on these Fords because I don't think there will be a lot of gentlemen on them like we are this weekend. So give me some Ryan Blaney here. Rod, back to you. Any more Ford love?
No Ford love yet, but I'm a little weary about Ross Chastain. That's the only one that really.
Ooh.
That's the only one because Ross Chastain, his hand's been slapped way too hard lately. I know, I see that. I know you love him to death, but I feel like there's that kid that when you get in trouble and he just doesn't do. He sulks in the corner for a while. He's sulking in the corner, and until he decides he wants to peek his head up, then I'll take chances with him. But
right, and that's the point I made where I said Ross Chastain will be Ross Chastain.
Yeah, that's it.
And I will say, we bet him at Sonoma for a top 10. We got out by the skin of our teeth. I think he finished 10th there because of a pit stop. So I'm going to take that as a victory, and I'm going to move off my guy for a week, I think. So I'm right there with you, Rod. I'm a little worried how he's been running lately. But, man, Elliot, those track stats, they want me to go with the number one. The heart's saying go with him. The head's saying stay away. So, Rod, back to you here as we keep going in Tier B.
Yeah, so let's go with Christopher Bell on this one. It's not as if I wanted to put Chase Elliott up there, but again, Chase Elliott's another one of those guys who he's done fantastic on this track, but I don't know if I can count on him to have a good day. But Christopher Bell on this track has been on this twice, obviously, and has 2 top 10 finishes, a 9th place finish in 2021, 8th place in 2022. And what's more impressive, though, is that in 2021, he started 25th. And finish 9th. So he can scoot himself up to the front. If he has a bad starting position, all the better for you, because his price tag is a little bit more than I would be comfortable with. But $9,400 for a Tier B driver. I suppose you gotta swallow it somewhere, right?
Yeah. That's not a bad pick. I was debating between Bell or Tyler Reddick to put up here, so I'll go with Tyler Reddick. Thanks for helping me out with that decision. 2311's been quick on these tracks. He's 6th in the total speed ranking. Number 3 at Charlotte at the most recent 1.5 mile track, even though Nashville's a little different, but I'm still calling it pretty much 1.5 miles. The books certainly are. We'll get to that later. Feels like some numbers where we're looking at a basic cookie cutter 1.5 mile track. So Tyler Reddick here, obviously he's been the road course guy. 2311, I feel like hasn't closed their book on wins yet in the regular season.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that statement. I have multiple bets on both those guys to win at least one more here this season. And you took one of Michael's boys. I'm going to take the other one of Michael Jordan's boys. I'm going to go Bubba Wallace in that number 23 car. Throw it up there, Elliot. 11th in total speed ranking at this track last season. 10th in green flag speed. Finished 12th. Very solid day. And when you look at Bubba, man, he's pretty good at these Dover plus 1.5 mile high-speed tracks. 9th best, top 5 speed twice at these kind of comp tracks that we're looking at this week in 4 tries. So I think Bubba Wallace might have a fast car here. You can find him honestly in some really good matchups around this week as well. I like him against Bowman specifically, your guy here in the Ally 400, despite the name, Elliot. So yeah, I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace here and the number 23 car. Rod, anyone else in B tier, or do you want to round it out and start C?
Is it sad that we're already at CRT or Tier C rather, and Elliot and Bowman are still sitting there? I feel reticent to even put Elliot in C because it feels like a disrespectful thing. But
yeah,
I mean, at his price range, I think you got to put him there. And you got to put him above Bowman. So if I'm going to put any Hendrick driver in Tier C, it's going to be Elliot first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could probably throw in Bowman, because I think both of those are better than anybody that's left on the board, honestly, especially at this track.
Yeah, I mean, this was the exact point I was going to make. I was going to put these guys both at C. With Chase Elliott, it's more of a what have you done for me lately? We just haven't seen it there. The pressure is mounting every week. He's going to have to win to get in the playoffs. And there's not too many races left when you look at it. So with Chase, there's going to be a lot of pressure there. We'll see how he does. And Bowman, the numbers of similar tracks would make you think, oh, Bowman might run well here. He might end up with a top 10. He might do all right. Both of the 2 years at Nashville, the 48's been garbage. It's just been hot garbage. They were nowhere near the front in 21. In 22, they were running in the mid-20s and then crashed out. I just don't have any faith for the 48 here unless Blake Harris has some wacky setup that Greg Ives didn't. But yeah, if you're going to go Hendrick, you're going to have to pay up and go top of the board for the 5 and 24, because 9 and 48, there's just really no value here. But I guess those are both technically your picks, so I got to pick a guy to throw up here. Yeah, this is tough. There's really almost a C plus, and then a C-.
Yeah, we enter a whole other tier of we're not the shitsters yet, but winging a prayer tier for sure.
Yeah, we're getting closer. A couple Fords are tempting me here, but I'm going to put Daniel Suarez on the board here. Again, we've seen Trackhouse run all right here. Suarez has had some decent runs. 15th in total speed ranking. What is he? He's about the 15th guy on the board. I think Suarez as a C to C minus is not a bad take here. DraftKings price is 7,600, pretty cheap. I don't mind that.
All right. I'm going to go back to the Fords here. I'm going Michael McDowell. He's on the thumbnail today. And why I'm going Michael McDowell is there is one mispricing on the books and in DraftKings DFS this week. And it is Michael McDowell. 5,800 for him right now. And this is a guy who he's on a little bit of a heater, boys. On a little bit of a heater. Just ran 7th at Sonoma, 9th the week prior at Gateway. I think Michael McDowell's going to mix it up here. I like the number I found on the books. I'll share with you guys later. And he's been really decent here. How decent? I'm going to foreshadow that and talk about that later. But Michael McDowell here, I think he's a great value at 5,800. I don't know how chalky it's going to get, though. That's the question, because I feel like a lot of people are going to see him down there in the 5s and say, oh, I want to play Michael McDowell for that leverage. So that's the only question. How chalky is he going to be? But I'm willing to ride it either way. Rod, back to you here.
Let's throw the 17 up there. Chris Buescher deserves to be at least a C. I don't think he's necessarily a D driver. But Chris Buescher, I mean, look, the guy's been very solid for you lately. Finishes of 4th, 12th, and 8th in his last 3 races. Go back to the race before the All-Star race, the Goodyear 400, 10th, 17th place, and then a 9th and a 3rd. Like, Chris Buescher is having solid DFS days all along. He's had at least 40 points in the last 3 races, 45, 46, 43, going back on that. And for me, these RFK guys, they've been running together in their pack, right? They've stuck together pretty well, and you know, they've been doing very well for you lately in DFS. So I think Chris Buescher is definitely worth a good little speculation there, especially for his price, which is at just had it $7,500 for Chris Buescher. 36th place and a 30th place finish here, and not impressive, but this season
teams run better than that this year. So
exactly, yep.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. We'll go with the RFK double here and put Keselowski up there. You're paying a little more in DraftKings at $8,000 for him, but eventually RFK is going to rip off a win too. I feel like that. So they're running well, they're running consistently, and I think both Keselowski and Buescher have what it takes to definitely be a value in Tier C.
All right. I think we could drop down to the D's now. I think there's another little bit of a cutoff here. However, I do like do you mind if I go with 2? I like 2 of them very much so here. I want to start with AJ Allmendinger. Guy's been running really good lately. 3 straight top 15 finishes. That does not just include the Sonoma 6th place last week. That includes Gateway, Charlotte. He's looked good at. Top 15 speed last year here in the speed rankings as well. So I think AJ Allmendinger is going to give you a little bit of leverage and relief at 6,500. Throw him in your lineups. And hey, how about Ricky Stenhouse Jr.? Guys continuing to do it at 7,300 here, averaging just over 31.5 DraftKings points. And this is some of those tracks where you get a little bit worried about Ricky Stenhouse. Can he perform at these high 1.5-mile speed tracks? The data shows you historically he can't. However, last time out at Charlotte, guys, 9th best total speed ranking for him. He's in that green. I like him a lot here, a little bit of a relief as well. So 1647, I could have made the argument for C tier, but they're my favorite Ds. I will have them in a lot of lineups this weekend, boys.
Yeah, D is the perfect place for these guys, I feel like. A little bit of upside there for sure.
Yeah, and for Allmendinger, like, he's another guy like Chastain that's just got to get out of his own way. He's really just got to get out of his own head and take that. All right, listen, if we're going to get down into the nitty gritty, then might as well just throw Eric Almirola in the D drivers. At least out of all of these guys, he's somebody who's top 5 on this track, right? I mean, he's definitely performed well on this track. He started on the pole in 2021 and wound up 4th. 17th place finish after an 11th place start in 2022. But again, you know, if we're talking about DFS and we're talking about not necessarily needing him to win the race, Eric Almirola is currently at $6,400. Doesn't take a lot to return on his value for that. So I'll take Eric Almirola and just a dart throw, possibly a top 10 finish, maybe a top 15 finish, and turn a good day into a better day.
Not too bad. I feel like this guy's one we might have missed. I got to put the 54 Ty Gibbs up here in Tier D, if only because it's the best equipment left on the board, honestly, in that 54. The speed ranking numbers are pretty good. He's 14th on those sort of tracks and 2 top 10s here in terms of the total speed ranking on a couple mile and a halves this year. Again, he hasn't been here in a Cup car. I don't believe he was.
He has not. No,
yet, so.
It was Kurt. Kurt ran well though. Kurt had a really fast car here. Kurt actually finished third, I think. No, I think second. Yeah, second last year was Kurt Busch. So yeah.
In any case, I think we're right having the 2311 guys in Tier B, and I think Ty Gibbs in Driver D may be a little undervalued, but at 7,800 DraftKings price, I think C- to D is fair for the 54.
Oh, yeah, and I feel like we just hit another fucking tier, man.
Honestly, yeah.
Everyone on the board, like, we can talk about some of these guys. Like, throw Austin Cindric in F. Guy has a top 10 here, but it's just been dog shit lately. No momentum for him. I don't want him in my lineups. Austin Dillon, same thing. 12th and 14th here. He's looked okay at times. No momentum from him for him either. So same with Eric Jones, man. Like, Eric Jones has historically ran pretty good on this track. 11th place last year. No fucking momentum. So, like, these are like guys who have talent. They have decent cars. Sometimes Eric Jones out of that conversation, but yeah, I can't get behind any of those. Rod, who else can you spotlight here? Because I'm not really eager to play any of these other gyms this week.
Can you say that because Priest won the truck race here a couple of years in a row, you could put him somewhere in there? I mean, that would be the only argument I can make for Priest, is that he's won on this track before, but it was in the truck series. So
yeah, I mean, it's been difficult for Priest. It's been difficult for SHR. Shout out to Josh Berry. I meant to do that when we put the 4 car on the board. He's going to be in the 4 car next year, replacing Kevin Harvick.
Go JB.
When you look at what the other 3 SHR cars are doing, and you're putting another quote-unquote rookie in that car, I don't know about SHR for next year, but we'll look at next year. I will put the 14 in Tier F. I don't even know if he's ahead of some of these other cars. You know, you may have seen me. I had a confused look on my face looking over to the side a couple of minutes ago because I was thinking about Briscoe. He's got a new crew chief. It's Richard Boswell, who he worked with in the 98 car in the Xfinity Series when they won all those races a couple of years ago. So I was thinking maybe there's some momentum for the 14. I don't know. You have to go all the way down to 33rd in the total speed ranking to find this 14 car. You got Todd Gilliland's ahead of him, Harrison Burton, Noah Gragson, Corey LaJoie. Even Zane Smith in his one race had a higher total speed ranking than Briscoe's averaged over the 4. So it's just tough with these SHR guys, man. I mean, hopefully Briscoe can get a little bit of help with that new crew chief, but man, oh man, it's just tough.
Well, and I'll add on to that, finishes of 31st and 34th on this track. So not his track.
Yeah. So he's only in the F for me to say don't bet on him then in that case, but just enough to spotlight him.
Yeah, throw Corey LaJoie in the F as well. He has 2 top 20 finishes here, and he's been making personal best all season long, so maybe he can do a little better this week. He's cooled off considerably over the last 6 to 8 weeks compared to that fire start he was on, but yeah, I feel like he should be in there. Harrison Burton, if you want to throw him in there, 220 or 125 5th place finish here, been a little bit better as of late. Elliot, you can run through the rest of these guys if you want, though, and like, do you have someone like I need dart throw? I have a lot of lineups I'm trying to build right now, to be honest, and I'm trying to stack like a Truex and a Hamlin or a Blaney and a Hamlin, and I'm struggling because I need one of these bottom feeders to fit in the lineup. I need a dart throw. Who's it going to be? Josh Bilicki's around it, right? I don't know. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, Josh Bilicki's been pretty decent this year. Like, I'm trying to talk myself into fucking Josh Bilicki this week, boys. 2 races here, 29.5 place finish. Look at the DraftKings points, though, averaging over 20 per contest. So, can I think
he's been the road course guy. So I think maybe that's just inflated road course finishes. If you're going to throw a dart throw from the bottom feeders, it's LaJoie. Because obviously he's had a rough couple of weeks. His stint in the 9 car didn't go like as well as he would have hoped. But it's been a tough run of tracks for the Spire cars. We've had a few road courses in there, a couple other weird tracks, no super speedways, so that's going to make LaJoie's numbers look a little worse. So I'm not totally writing him off, which I never knew I would say that about a Spire car. I'm not writing him off. We could see a nice little 24th, 23rd out of him that makes him worth more than the 5,300 he is on the board here.
When I say I need a dart throw, I need about 4,900 in DraftKings. Like I can't even afford Todd Gilliland. So
Your boy Ty Dillon is right at 4,900 in that 77.
Like, I think I'd rather ride Josh Bilicki. That's what I'm saying. Like, can I get some Bilicki, some Yaley? I think I'd rather ride those guys. What do you think, Rod?
I was about to say, can you fit Brendan Poole? He's not going to lose you any points. That 15 car is probably going to start at the rear and end at the rear. So you just want a placeholder. That's probably your best bet.
Yeah. Elliot, what else do you have on these guys?
It's tough for the wear cars for sure. That only leaves 3 names we haven't mentioned. Justin Haley in the 31. Again, just put the Colleague Racing Cup Series team on the side of a milk box, because where are they? I mean, Allmendinger's been fine, but I don't know about Haley. Todd Gilliland. Surprising that there's no Todd Gilliland love, especially with McDowell as a Tier C driver. I'm a little surprised. I'm a little disappointed in you, honestly. No, that shows that his Nashville stats are not great.
If you want some Todd Gilliland, there's a little hope. He started 33rd and finished 24th in last year's race. There's some place differential.
Okay.
And then last but certainly not least, Noah Gragson is healthy, is back in the 42 car this week for Legacy, and that's about all there is to say about him this week. So there we go. There's our tiers this week. Nice and balanced. A couple of Ds, a lot of Fs, and a lot of guys who it's just not worth touching. But when Josh Bilicki gets a solid 22nd, we'll make sure to shout him out.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Well, let's go ahead. Let's move in. Yeah, let's get into the Park Garage props. We got some fun betting cards to lay out for the week, so let's get into it.
So it seems like the consensus with the books this week is that, we got a couple of options here, but for the most part, not our favorite week of the year for sure.
It was one of those that when you look at the prices, you see a lot of the guys we've been betting on, like Truex at 7-1 and lower, and it was a bummer to start out. But I will say, I dug in deeper. I kept scrounging, just trying to find something, and I feel like I found some pretty fun ones this week, so I'm okay with it. Rod, how did you feel about it? That mixed bag of emotions for me for sure.
Well, I know Cody and I were pissed that it took that long for them to come out with the odds. I mean, they had a full week to come, and give us odds. I don't know why they waited until this last Tuesday when they had a full week, but
because of sharks like us, Rod, because of fucking sharks like us, buddy.
We'd have jumped on every single early thing we could find. But yeah, I mean, I found some good stuff that I liked as well. I mean, I was able to locate some value in there, but I know that I was a little bit disappointed that the odds were about the same as we've seen all year long, and they're not getting very creative with them. But again, finding value is just about being able to find the matchups that you like and rolling with those. So we did that.
Yeah, even for my, mixed up, wild and crazy, do we go with this random ass group that nobody really cares about? Really couldn't even find many of those. So I guess we'll start out with some of the outrights, though. Whoever wants to lead off, let's hear what we got for the week.
Rod, floor is yours, my friend.
I'm going with Kyle Busch. Again, like I said, just the simple fact that he is the hottest driver on the circuit right now. He's had a week off to just prepare and get ready for this race. To me, Kyle Busch is exactly what we thought he was going to be at the beginning of the season, right? He came in, head cleared, all that stuff with Gibbs out the window, and now he's just a driver. Now he's just somebody that can put the pedal down and win races. And I think as far as him being able to win this race, we said it before, he's been in the top 10, has done well on this track in the past. And if anybody can put these Hendrick boys down, it's going to be Kyle Busch. And he's in a Chevy, which they've done historically well on this track too, as well.
8.5 to 1. He does feel a little underpriced for a guy as hot as him. I think it's just the track history here that's keeping his price down a little bit. Average finish at 16th. So I think that's the one thing that held me back from Kyle Busch, but I can't blame you at all for riding that ticket. He's been the hottest driver in the sport, maybe other than Martin Truex, though. And I'm not going to go in depth with Truex because we've talked about him just ad nauseum the last couple of weeks. But number one at that Dover plus 1.5 high-speed tracks total speed rankings that we're looking at from iFantasy Race. Second in year-to-date speed rankings as well. Guys on a tear. 6.5. I'm gonna eat the chalk. I'm gonna bite the bullet there. Plus 110 for a top 5. I'm gonna take that as well. However, I want to look past him a little bit, and I want to talk about the guy who's number 2 at those 1.5-mile tracks this season, those high-speed ones, and that's Denny Hamlin, man. He has been really, really good at those tracks so far this season. And last year, 2022 Nashville, number 2 in total speed rankings, number two in fastest lap as well, and number 3 in green flag speed, finished 6th on the day. Denny Hamlin, I mean, there's a reason he's up at where he is in the favorites this week. It's been really bad finishes for him as late. Sonoma, terrible, but looked fast early. Second at Gateway the week before, though. Like, I think his underlying metrics are better than the finishes have been. Give the guy a week off. Can he come back and deliver? I think he can, boys. So I'm going to go with Denny for the first time, maybe all season, on the outright at 7-1.
Yeah, Denny's not a name we've talked about a whole lot in the outrights. A couple other names that look sort of interesting to me. Caesars has an odds boost on Chase Elliott at plus 1,000. Again, we were kind of iffy on Chase. We were iffy enough to throw him in Tier C, so I don't know. William Byron at plus 800, Ross Chastain plus 1,100. Vaguely intriguing, but definitely at a lower tier than the guys we've already talked about.
For sure. I think a lot of that is just how hot are they coming into this race, and those drivers have not been hot, compared to at least Denny and Truex and Kyle Busch and those guys we're talking about. Rod, anything in the, or Elliot, anything in the placement props this week for you guys we haven't talked about yet that you're considering getting down on? Because there are some like funner long shots I think that could actually cash this week.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going for, and I think this is because I want to see him bounce back, and I like the top 5. The top 5 odds for Ty Gibbs plus 425. If you really think that he's gonna bounce back, I think if you're looking deeper in that, if you want to find somebody like Kozlowski's at 5-1, but like Bowman's 3.5-1, I don't know. It just, to me, if I'm going to take a shot at a top 5, because if you look further down, like Chase Elliott's plus 130, okay. I mean, I would maybe go there, but like Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, all at 1.5, 140. It's not worth it. If you really want to take a flyer, like a quarter of a unit flyer on a top 5 car and Ty Gibbs, just to maybe he sneaks up to a top 5 finish in this one. That's the only one that I would see in the top 5s to take a stab at.
Right. With Ty Gibbs, maybe. With Bowman, I definitely don't see it.
Yeah. That top 5 market was tough this week a little bit for me. I did prefer the top 10 a little bit more. I'm going to throw one out, 7-1, Michael McDowell for a top 10, boys. Finished 13th and 16th here in the last 2 seasons. And that kind of lines up with where he's been at this track. 14th in total speed ranking, 13th in fastest late in a run last season. So I think McDowell, man, 2 straight top 10s and get 7-1 for him to get a third. I think that's a really, really good number for a guy who kind of shows up at tracks like this, guys. 6 at Richmond earlier this season. So I like McDowell a lot, and I will say it was a guilty pleasure. I will put it on the card because I did put money down on it. But I did put $3.40 on the outright for Michael McDowell. That's a 300-1 sprinkle, $3.40 for a cool grand coming back my way. So, I'm going to roll with Michael McDowell. He's my one dark horse this week that I really liked. So, give me some Mickey D. Elliot, anything else here in the placement prop market that you liked?
No, nothing else that we haven't already mentioned in the placement props, honestly. Top 10 odds were tough this week, as you would expect for a track that behaves like a 1.5 miles. And hey, Seth, props to you for putting money on the outright. That's the kind of thing you can do when we hit some long shots here on the back road.
We're feeling it. We're feeling it.
You can throw a couple bucks on something that we all know isn't going to happen, but just in case it does, it would really up the winnings.
I think
props to you would go 34, right?
People said the same thing recently about our guy Wyndham Clark, and he came through for us. So we're feeling good. We're feeling frisky. We're tossing it on the 34 there. What about this head-to-head group specials? This is where I found a lot of advantage in the books, Rod. What were you looking at in either one of these markets?
So I found one, and I know you're gonna have to pay a little bit of juice for it, but I love this. We're full on the Fade Briscoe train on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Cody and I, Cody's basically the conductor, and I'm the guy that's throwing coal in the fire.
That's a pretty crowded train. The Fade Briscoe and Fade all 3 Stuart Haas except Harvick is a pretty crowded train.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if I wasn't the guy throwing coal in the fire, I wouldn't have room on there for me. But I did find one. It's Eric Almirola over Chase Briscoe, minus 140. It's the only one that you can get that I found that has Briscoe involved in it. but I want it because I definitely know this is going to cash. And at minus 140, it's not sexy, but my buddy Cody always says you only pay the juice if you lose. I don't think you're going to lose this one. So go ahead and manage it how you want to get the profit off of it. But this one's going to cash.
Well, and I saw that exact one, Rod, and I went looking for more and more ways to fade Briscoe this week. So I will get down with you. I will lay some juice on that one. I think I'll add that to the card. What about Group G on Caesars, boys? This is one of those specials, plus 240 across the books. It's Almirola, Cindric, Briscoe, and Dillon. Elliot, you're shaking.
I had this one too. Yep. This is an interesting one for sure. For a minute, I was leaning Briscoe, but I've been talked out of it in this show.
It's got to be.
What do you think about this one, Seth?
It's got to be Almirola. Won the pole here in 2021, finished fourth that year, 9th in average driver rating across the 2 Cup Series races here as well. And this is just a little bit, again, we've used, it's a buzzword this week, momentum. Who has momentum in this group? Well, it's Eric Almirola. He showed us something in that All-Star Open. Ran well, was up in the top 10 for the 600 as well for a while, and then wins at Sonoma in the Xfinity. Like, that is momentum. Even if it's a different series, it is momentum. Briscoe, no momentum. Cindric, god awful this entire season. People were thinking he was going to run well at Sonoma. I'm pretty sure he was in the 30s most of the day. And then Austin Dillon, he can get 12th or 14th here, but I don't think he can be a top 10 car. I think Almirola has the highest upside, and I think he has the best floor too. I think he finishes somewhere between 10 and 17th. And I can't say that about these other guys. I think they'll be somewhere more closer to the 20s. So at plus 240, how do you feel about that one, Rod, adding these guys, Cindric and Dillon, into this equation as well?
Well, and if it makes you feel any better, the one we just talked about, the matchup between Almirola and Briscoe, when I first gave it out earlier in the week, it was at minus 125. It is at 140 now. So that goes to show you that everybody's jumping on this fade Briscoe train. And Almirola, like I said earlier in the DFS tiers, he could be sneaky good on this. He could actually finish in the top 10. The other guys, you can't say that so much for those. I mean, obviously right now, all of them are running poorly, but Almirola is probably the one that has the most potential to not run poorly out of all those guys.
Yeah, this is the group you want to play if you think NBC is just showing too darn much of those leaders and you want to follow who's running 15th to 30th. This is your group right here.
That's the group.
Yes.
For sure.
Someone needs to make a fucking app for that. I need to watch those mid-pack guys more. Get me on some demand stuff.
I think on NASCAR.com, every car has an in-car camera now. Some of them aren't as good as the others. Some of them just have a little tiny front view that you can kind of barely see. But every car's got an in-car now. So if you want to pay attention to Michael McDowell back there in 17th and see him climb to the front, you can go ahead and do that.
I like it. Elliot, what else do you have for us in this market? I have a couple more. Rod might have another one or two. What are you liking in this market?
See, this is a weird week for me because I didn't have too many. I had that Caesars group bet, and Brad Keselowski is the top forward at plus 800. That seemed vaguely intriguing to me also. But other than that, some of the other groups, it was the same sort of stuff. You know, the leaders of the race all going to be at, anywhere from plus 140 to plus 240. There's just too much variance there. I don't quite, nothing really is super duper intriguing to me in some of those higher edge groups this week. There's no, sometimes you get, here's the guy who's going to finish third. Here's the guy that's going to finish sixth. Here's the guy that's going to finish ninth. And here's, Noah Gragson or Ty Gibbs or something where you can take a shot on a long shot. But I didn't really find much of that in the Caesars groups.
Yeah, the Caesars groups were not necessarily all that fantastic for me either. And a couple of them, the ones that offer more than like 4, it's just tough to bet those because any number of things can happen and they don't necessarily give you. Now, granted, those groups and head-to-heads, usually these guys end up running pretty close to each other. So that's why it's a little scary to take some of the ones with 5 or 6 in them.
Yeah. And that's why I try to, when I'm betting groups, it's like, I want 4. I want 4, probably nothing more than 4. So 100% on that. Guys, I talked about it recently and it worked when we went to it. It was, Ford comes out to play at night. They were hung out. I think it was plus 530 that week. They're at plus 420 right now on Caesars. How do we feel about the Mustangs here? You're getting Harvick with that. Guys average 7.5 average finish here. Almirola, 10.5 average finish. Joey Logano, 2 top 10s. Ryan Blaney finished third here last season. Michael fucking McDowell. So, I think there are some outs you have with this that I don't mind. Can you get behind that, Elliot, at all? Can you get behind Ford, or is it just, the odds have been so low all season?
Yeah, I mean, at that number, it's tough. It's tough with the Fords this week. I'd be much more willing to take a shot at some tracks where we've seen better Fords. We've seen Fords run better consistently. Obviously, you're going to have a week where one of the Penske cars is going to run great. Kevin Harvick's going to run top 12 everywhere on the circuit at this point. That's just how he is. But, I mean, it's just tough. And, I mean, the books show it. Getting a number that high on a manufacturer win when you have more than the 6 cars Toyota has, the books know something there. They know that Ford's not likely to end up in the winner's circle.
Fair.
Yeah, Ford's a rough sell for me right now. To win, I'm maybe top 10. Sure, give me those all day long, but I don't know about a win for Ford. They got a lot.
Yeah, and I think Keselowski is the top Ford at plus 800, the special I threw out there, because there's going to be variance with those Fords running anywhere from 7th to 17th. Maybe the 6th car ends up in the front of those.
They're like the Ferrari right now of F1. They just can't get out of their own way and win a race lately.
And it's tough because that's the way it's been the last couple of years is you come out with, I don't know if it's necessarily a new design, but I guess they made some changes to the cars. This is what happened with Hendrick in, 2018 or whenever that was, 17, 18, when they weren't winning as much. It was because of the nose on the Camaro at that time, or the SS, whatever they were running. That gets changed at the start of a season, and then they run much better, and like you'd expect with Hendrick. That's the same sort of thing I've been hearing with the Fords, is that there's just something with the nose that it's not as aerodynamically pleasing or something like that. We'll let somebody far better at engineering that knows this shit to explain it. But that's at least what I've been reading on Reddit comments and such, that maybe this just isn't a year for the Fords, and we got to wait until next year to really hammer down on some of these guys. Obviously, Fords are going to win. Fords are going to do well. Fords aren't going to be totally shut out. But we've already seen it this year. I mean, it took the longest it had taken for a Ford to win a race since like 2010 or 2011. I remember we had the stat a couple of weeks ago. So it's just, I mean, there's good Ford drivers, there's good Ford moments, there's good Ford tracks, but Ford across the board, I think, is going to be behind Chevy and Toyota for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's more about playing the number. I love the number 420, have to do it. And second of all, I think there's just some outs here. So I'm going to go with.
I totally get it. It's a very tempting number. It can be you can easily get talked into it. It's just tough.
Yeah. Rod, anything else we haven't talked about tonight that you want to throw out for the listening audience as well?
Speaking of numbers, I love my winning car number bets, and this one's a fun one too. They got winning car 0 to 9 at minus 110, not juiced at all. Like, it's not plus money like the next one in line, 10 to 19 at plus 220. But at only minus 110, 0 to 9. Obviously, that gives you Chastain, it gives you Larson, it gives you Elliot, it gives you Busch,
Keselowski, Joy, and Austin Dillon.
You just made Cody happy by bringing up Corey LaJoie. But no, I mean, look, that's a lot of heavy hitters at only minus 110. Like I said, I know it's not a plus money bet, but that's a pretty wide range of good drivers. Yeah, almost even money.
And just by playing the numbers, if chaos happens, that's one of the only ones where you get all those are filled. 1 to 9. Yeah. You get to some of the lower numbers, anywhere you get to 40 plus or something, you don't have as many shots as you do with 0 to 9. So
I think the only reason, and I saw that, and I looked at that one, and I went down on 10 through 19, Rod. That's where I went, and again, it just gave me my favorite outs. It gave me Hamlin. It gave me Truex, who I think can both win this race. Almirola, we talked about as a sneaky guy. Blaney as well. I threw some dinger love, but outside of that, those are the outs I like. I like Truex and Hamlin or Blaney, so that's why I went there. But I totally understand the 0 through 9. It made sense because this could be the week, man, that the old Melon Man turns it around. I'm not going to bet on it. I don't think it happens, but it could be. So, Elliot, settle this debate, man. Would you like either one of these bets that Rod or I laid out better or push?
I don't know. I mean, that 0 to 9 is definitely tempting for sure. I can't, there's problem. There's pluses, there's minuses with both of them, but both pretty solid. Let's see.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyone have any?
But there we go.
Awesome. Anyone have anything else we haven't touched on tonight before we round it out, guys?
I think we're solid. I think
so.
Covered just about everything.
Awesome. Well, Rod, thank you for being here with us tonight. As always, our friend. Tell us how we can best support you, man.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. There's a link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it is here. Obviously, check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. We have already the trucks, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series up this week. Cody's on vacation, so we got all those in at once, and now we'll have DFS, somebody special for you for the DFS episode. But yeah, follow me on Twitter there. There's a link also to my for frequency's sake articles. Going to have one special for you this week as well.
Awesome. Awesome. For us here at the Backroad, guys, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Come back and hang out with us again. Elliot, you and I, between this and the website, we got a lot of NASCAR content coming, my friend.
No doubt about it. So good luck with all your bets at Nashville. And if you think this is a little basic this week, the 1.5 mile numbers, you got to tune in next week because we're heading to the Chicago Street Course. And I don't know that there has been or will be a more chaotic and crazy and different race that we'll cover in NASCAR. So definitely be sure to tune in next week. Tune in every week. Go back and check out our championship bet special if you're looking for some long shots. Have a good week. Best of luck in Nashville. Thanks for rolling down the back road, and we will see you again this time next Thursday.